Hey guys, it's Nicole at the Pearl Review. How's it going? Happy Mother's Day if you're watching this today. This is a video that's a continuation of my last video. I've been reading a lot of nonfiction and watching a lot of movies considering I'm kind of stuck inside. So these are some further suggestions. Very briefly, it's kind of hard to really examine and analyze nonfiction. I just appreciate it for what it is, really. I'm going to make another video probably in the near future about favorite films that I've watched and maybe favorite musicians and bands as well, if you guys are interested. I know I had a few comments about the documentaries I chose last time. And yeah, hope you're well and stay safe out there. Alright guys, so briefly I have 3 books and 3 films for you. I first finished Post-War by Tony Judt, or Jute, not really sure. This guy is a respected intellectual and historian who I hadn't heard of before, but I'm glad I stumbled on. Post-war is the mostly political and partially social history of Europe, the whole damn thing, immediately after World War II and up to 2005. What an amazing bird's eye view, at least for a former political science major. Just wow. Judd used research from 6 or 7 different languages to give us the multiple simultaneous stories of post-war Europe, the rebuilding of Europe, the rise and fall of the Soviet Union, the creation of the EU. You really get a clear view of all of this. As an American, I learned so much about the complexities of what was going on in 1945 and learned a bit about World War II from the European perspective. This is a massive book. I think it's about 1,000 pages. I also listened to it on audiobook, and I think the narrator, was really good. It was a bit dry, but I was still floored by this one. What a gift this is to anyone who really is curious and patient. Another book that is a true gift to the world, in my humble opinion, is Journey into the Whirlwind by Eugenia Ginsburg. If you want to be more Russian about it, I think it's Evgenia. Miss Ginsburg was an early victim of the Great Purges, the horrible campaigns that Stalin created to wipe the political slate clean, wherein he exiled millions of innocent people to the gulags, remote ruling prison camps, if you're unfamiliar. Ginsburg chronicles in this book her long interrogation, arrest, her 2 years in solitary confinement, and ultimately her arrival by Siberian train to Kolyma? It's Kolyma. I'm not sure how to pronounce this guy. It was one of the worst gulags. This book made me cry, and that really doesn't happen too often. Ginsburg was a brilliant woman who loved literature, and her distinct personality colors this sad but incredibly moving story. Finally, I just finished Sharp, The Women Who Made an Art of Having an Opinion by Michelle Dean. This was a lighter read that essentially contained mini biographies of some of the famous 20th century writers, including Dorothy Parker, Rebecca West, Hannah Arendt, Mary McCarthy, Susan Sontag, Pauline Kael, Joan Didion, Nora Ephron, Renata Adler, and Janet Malcolm. In the New York Times review, they say that this is the book that shows how each woman, by wielding a pen as if it were a scalpel or a scimitar, confounded the gender norm of niceness and placed her analytical prowess front and center. I liked that turn of phrase. This was an enjoyable, though not perfect book. And this was especially so since I've been doing a lot of heavy reading, and I found this book light and enlightening at the same time. Dean's writing is pretty pedestrian, so there are some segments that really could have done better in terms of style and wit from the author herself. And as like a fan of Joan Didion, for instance, I didn't think her chapter completely was spot on, but this still was sort of fun to read. Now, as I've given you 3 book recommendations, I also have 3 films, 2 documentaries and 1 not. Book Wars was made in 2000 and is available on Amazon. The director sold books on the street in New York City for a few years, and he chronicles his experience with some of the others in his community. This one's short, like my other documentary. It's a little over an hour, but it's very much a man on the street story. You feel immersed in the setting. It's nonchalant and captures a moment in New York not so long ago, but seemingly gone. It's also a great little novella of a movie, if you will, for any book nerd. Now, the second documentary I'd like to recommend is Eugene Walter, Last of the Bohemians. This one drew me in as it's the story of someone outside of the norm, a lover of culture who was really the architect of his own life, a person who loved life and did not conform. I've been taken by these sort of narratives lately, and though this, as well as Book Wars, is short and made on a very small budget in a very DIY sort of way, the subject matter definitely piqued my interest. Walter was described as a Truman Capote, but more likable. A prolific writer and playwright, he translated and appeared in films for Fellini and had a pet reindeer he fed fig Newtons during the war. What's not to love? I also found this one on Amazon. Finally, Tampopo. What a film! This one I found on the Criterion channel, as I'm a bit of a film nerd as well. Tampopo exists outside of reality. It's a surrealist comedy about a truck driver training a widow how to make a better bowl of ramen to save her cafe. It's a very pretty movie too. It was filmed in the 80s, and it's very colorful. If you need a little sunshine in your life and are okay with things getting pretty absurd, please check this one out. It definitely cheered me up. So these are my picks from the last few weeks. If you have any recommendations for me, please feel free to include in the comments below. And yeah, thanks so much for listening. Take care. Bye.